What's up guys, welcome to my analysis of the new Destiny community thank you video Bungie just released. There's a decent amount of awesome new footage in this video, so let's take a look. The first new shot we see is this one here. I honestly have no idea where this might be or what it is, but it does seem to resemble the other structures we've seen in the latest vidoc, the ones infested with the hive. The initial thing I noticed about this shot is this thing on the left here, which looks like a large red spaceship that's crashed. The whole left side seems pretty badly damaged from what definitely looks like a major impact, and it's all still on fire, indicating that the ship, or whatever it is, crashed quite recently. Now, if it is a ship, which it sure seems like to me, then I really wonder who it belonged to. We've seen the fallen ships, and that definitely isn't one of them. That leaves the Hive, Vex, and Cabal. Personally, I don't think the Hive would have ships, or if they do, I don't think they would look that good. The Vex, I'm really not sure. I suppose it could be a Vex vessel. The thing is though, we've seen concept art of those giant obsidian pyramid ships, and we don't know who they belong to either. Out of the currently known races, I'd guess the most likely owners would be the Vex, unless the Hive have fleets of giant obsidian pyramid ships, or there's a fifth enemy race. Finally, there's the Cabal, which I personally think might be the most likely. We've seen Cabal dropships already, which are pretty clean and standard looking. They didn't have any odd architecture or strange styles. Design-wise, it feels to me like that's the most likely match. Unless, of course, it's a human craft, which would mean that the humans have some very large, awesome spaceships. I feel that's unlikely, though it's probably one of the other races. Other than that, we can see a fire team making its way into the structure, and then there's this design on the top of the structure. I'm not sure if that's purely artistic or if it's a symbol of some importance. The final thing is this rather interesting lighting on the right. At first I thought it was like lava or molten metal, but it's not moving or flowing, so I don't think it is. Perhaps it's just an interesting style of alien lighting. Moving on, this scene is pretty cool. In this first shot we can see they're in some kind of large courtyard with a crashed fallen ship on the right. The fire team is being attacked by a bunch of fallen, and here's the interesting part, the Vex. In this next shot we get a better view of that. As you can see, the Vex and fallen are fighting the Guardians together. That's our first in-game example of two enemy races working together. Before this, we only had a single piece of concept art which showed the Fallen and Cabal together. So of course, we'll be seeing groups of multiple races trying to take us out. But I believe it's been nearly confirmed that there's also times where they won't be friends, and we can just sit back and watch them battle it out. One minor thing to note, when the Vex on the left first enters the frame, he has an electricity effect coursing around him. That could be an ability they have, it could be a shield recharge thing, or perhaps it was recently hit by a Guardian attack and the effect is left over from that. I'm not sure. Continuing on, this looks like an area on Mars. There's this big wind turbine in the center. You can also see more turbines of a different type off on the left. Then there's some weeds growing along the structures, an indication of just how much Mars has changed. This also seems to be high up on a building or something. If you look to the left, it seems like there's a significant drop-off. The last thing is this Guardian hovering over the turbine as it passes. I believe this is a Warlock using Glide, but it's hard to say for sure. This next shot gives us a better look at the area off to the left. You can see a bunch more wind turbines. This definitely looks like a big wind farm for power generation. Here's some wild speculation. Could this perhaps be up in the hills above the buried city, providing power to the city back in the Golden Age? Just a thought. Now of course the interesting part of this is the Hunter here. The character jumps and then performs some new ability we haven't seen before. It seems to dart or teleport forward, leaving a trail of energy behind it. I think this is probably a short burst ability, likely sending you forward a fairly short distance almost instantly. Also, I doubt it's a super, probably just a minor ability or perhaps some kind of equipment. The next piece of footage here seems to be competitive multiplayer, and I would guess this is located in old Russia as the style seems to match what we've seen. There are two teams of Guardians battling it out in this narrow section of the map. We can see a bunch of abilities being thrown around here. First, the little red homing missiles, which spread out to hit two different enemies. Then the front character, which looks like a Titan, puts up his protective shield. Immediately after, one of the enemy Guardians shoots off a Nova Bomb. Seeing that ball of energy coming at you actually does look pretty threatening in my opinion. I wonder just how deadly it'll be in competitive. Something interesting to note is after the Titan and Hunter come out of the bubble shield, they both have a blue shimmer in front of them. I'm guessing it's some other type of shield perhaps? Although it seems odd that they both have it and the character to the back doesn't. Now if it is a shield, it certainly doesn't seem to protect against the golden gun ability very well, as we can see the enemy Hunter kill the Titan in one hit. One more thing about this shot, we see two normal fire teams of 3 facing off in competitive. That makes me wonder if the standard team size in competitive play will be 3 players. It's definitely possible that they only had 3 players per team for the purposes of this video to keep the fire team consistent across all the scenes. It's also possible this is just one engagement and there's more people fighting around the corner. Still, it certainly has me curious about team size. Personally, I hope teams in competitive will be larger than that, at least in some game modes. In Halo, Big Team Battle is probably my overall favorite playlist, as I like larger maps with more players and vehicles. I also love Battlefield for that reason, so I definitely hope to see more than 6-player matches in Destiny, and I'm sure there will be. I can't see that being the max player count. We've already seen more than that in public events against AI, so competitive would have to be more, I'm sure. Next is a pretty badass scene. We've got the Hunter attacking a couple of fallen dregs with an awesome blade that has energy coursing around it. Now the Hunter is glowing like he's using some space magic, so I don't think this is some ultra powerful knife, but rather an ability that supercharges your blade, like the golden gun but for your knife. Either way though, it looks very satisfying to use. One more thing, as this scene begins to fade, we get a pretty clear look at the blade. You can see it isn't quite the standard knife we've seen previously. It's a more interesting style. It looks sort of like a small machete almost. He also holds it facing back for those nice uppercut slashes. I'm hoping that means our blade is customizable, and that we'll be able to find some really cool knives out in the wild. Possibly finding exotic knives sounds awesome. Another thing I wonder is if we'll be able to change the angle that we hold our knife. As in, did the player choose to hold the blade in that way for that type of attack, or is it a preset based on the particular knife? I'm gonna guess it's a preset, but it would be sweet if we could change it. Moving on, here's a menacing close-up of a fallen captain looking pretty threatening. Then there's this Hunter performing an ability in the courtyard or entrance of this cool looking building. Now I almost missed this, but after he performs the ability and the camera pans, you can actually see he's holding that awesome knife from a moment ago. So this ability is definitely the knife power-up, which again seems very similar to the golden gun, but for your blade. Also, I believe this scene takes place directly before the one we just saw. I think he powers up his ability and then proceeds to attack those fallen. They just switched around the order for cinematic purposes. Something to think about is whether this will be a Hunter exclusive ability. We've seen a Titan using the golden gun, and this looks very similar, so I'm guessing it's not going to be a Hunter exclusive, but of course we'll have to wait and see. On to the next shot, we see the Hunter yet again. He really is the star of the show, isn't he? The only thing is, here we can see he has red sleeves, which I didn't notice in the other shots, so perhaps it isn't quite the same character, or maybe he was just customized a bit. I'm gonna guess this is in old Russia, but I'm not really sure. I'm thinking that this and some of the other shots we've seen are all areas of old Russia past where the public event occurred. Another thing is, although the area is a bit overgrown, everything seems to be in fairly nice shape. It looks cleaner than the other parts of old Russia we've seen. That is, if this even is old Russia, of course. Now back to the Hunter, he runs along before going into a slide, and then at the very end using an ability, possibly the dash or teleport we saw before. One thing though, when he uses it, the screen goes red. That dash ability from before looked blue to me. Perhaps that means it's a different ability, or maybe it's just something to do with the lighting and the camera, I don't know. Now for the second to last scene, we've got a pretty cool competitive face-off between two Hunters. The male Hunter that we've been seeing in the back, and this new female one up front. We can see she has her golden gun primed and ready to go. He shoots with his assault rifle, she goes in with a slide and nails him at close range, landing an insta-kill. I have to say, that maneuver looked pretty awesome. An interesting thing here is when the male Hunter is killed, he drops some kind of box. I wonder if that's loot, or perhaps something to do with the objective of the game type. I'm not sure, but it's certainly worth looking at. On to the very last scene, which comes after the Destiny logo and the Become Legend 2014 slogan, as well as the entire studio cheering in thanks for a great summer, and the message, "We can't wait to show you what's next. Love, Bungie." Which is pretty awesome in itself. Big studios don't normally thank their fans in this way. It certainly helps remind us why Bungie is extra special. But anyways, the last scene is this shot here, a pretty badass looking panning shot with an awesome skybox, or should I say spacebox, up above. I'm thinking this must be Earth's moon. With rocks like that, I can't think of where else this could be, unless perhaps it's Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, but I think Earth's moon is far more likely, as this doesn't seem nearly icy enough to be Europa. Off to the back there is what looks like a hive guarding the entrance, and then as the camera pans, we see a fire team moving in. That blue warlock on the right I can instantly recognize as the badass from the vidoc. He looks awesome in my opinion. Now the fact that this is the same warlock probably means that this is the same location seen in much of the second vidoc. In my recent analysis of that vidoc, I speculated that the location was more likely to be Europa, but now I'm thinking that was inaccurate, as I'm fairly sure this is Earth's moon. The last thing here is, as the camera is panning back, we can see something quickly fly past on the top left. The only thing that comes to mind is a satellite, but does that seem stupid? I'm not sure what satellites orbiting Earth would look like from the moon. I suppose it could also be a drone or something, but the design still looks more like a satellite to me. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you think that's possible or if I'm way off. Anyways guys, that's it for my analysis of all the new footage from Bungie's Destiny community thank you video. I really hope you enjoyed. As usual, I always put a lot of work and effort into these analyses, so if you liked it, it's very much appreciated if you click that like button. It helps me out a lot. Also, let me know what you thought of the new footage and of Bungie's thank you in the comments below. But thank you very, very much for watching. I always appreciate all the support from you guys, and I'll see you in the next update.